Hey guys, welcome to today's class. We'll start in a deep forward fold. You can either have the feet at a hip width distance or bring the big toe mounds to touch. Tip forwards and lift the hamstrings up. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen the spine. Exhale, squat and curl, come to a tiny little ball. Come high onto the tiptoes, round the spine, suck the navel in, forehead to knees. You're welcome to bring one or both forearms around the shins. Or maybe bring the hands up to your heart center, lifting the skull on top of the pelvis, hugging the outer hips and the outer ankles in. Pick the pelvic floor up, maybe even hovering the hips up off the heels. Again, using the quads, turning the glutes on, hugging them up. Exhale, forward fold, lift the hamstrings, lower the head. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen the spine. Exhale, step the left foot back to a low lunge, lower the knee and keep the left toes tucked. Hug the outer hips, inhale, crescent moon, arms lift up towards the ceiling. Outer hips hug, right hip pulls back, lifting the pelvic floor, the pubic bone all the way up towards the chest. Lift the left hamstring, gently engage the glute. Exhale, hands to heart center. Keep the right big toe mound grounded. Plant the left hand towards the ground, right hand lifts up to the ceiling for an open twist. Option to put a block under the left palm, open through the chest from left palm up to the right. Option to stay here or reach the right hand back to grab the left foot. Good, again grounding into the right big toe mound, gently hugging the right shin back. Kick the foot back into the hand and pull the foot towards the glute. Either staying up on the palm or a block under the left palm. You have an option to come down onto the forearm as well. So if you need that extra space, use a block. And again, the pelvis moves forwards. The right shins gently pulling back. Create resistance by kicking into the foot and then pulling the foot towards the glute. Slowly release the foot to the ground. Bring the right palm inside the right foot. Again, lengthen the spine. Exhale, pike the hips back for a wide leg half splits. Hug the outer right hip back. You're welcome to place blocks under the hands either outside of the leg or maybe hands to the inside of the leg. Flex the toes towards the face. Exhale, back to a lunge position. Bend the front knee. Inhale, flex the toes back, pull the hips back as we flow through. Exhale, bend the front knee, lengthen the chest forwards, outer hips hug. Again, inhale, flex the toes back, outer right hip pulls back. Exhale, plant the right foot, bring the hands to the ground and lift the back knee up. Just step the left foot forwards, outside the left wrist, into a frog squat malasana variation. Hands to heart, elbows to knees. Welcome to walk the feet a bit wider, or sit a block under the hips if you need that support. Press the elbows back into the knees and then lengthen the spine. The pelvic floor, the navel, everything rises up all the way to the sides of the head. You're welcome to gently sway side to side to get a little more space, maybe a little bit more warmth in the pelvis. Exhale, forward fold, lift the hips, and bring the feet back towards one another again. Step the right foot back to a low lunge. Again, lower the knee, keep the back toes tucked. The outer hips pull in as you slowly lift the arms up. Good. Keep the left big toe mound grounded, left outer hip pulls back, right hamstring pulls up, right glutes gently engaged. Square the pelvis to the front of the mat, also to the ground. Again, pulling the front of the pubic bone up to the chest. Good. Exhale, hands to heart center. And bring the right hand to the ground inside the right foot. Option to put a block under the right palm. And lift the left hand up towards the ceiling for an open twist. Again, hugging the outer hips in. Pull the head away from the hips. If you need a wider stance, you can walk the left foot a little further out, either staying here with the left arm lifted, or reach back and grab the right foot. Again, if you can, grab the baby toe side of the foot, kick the foot back and pull the foot in towards the glute. Again, you can either stay up on the palm, hand on the block, or come down onto the right elbow and forearm, getting a little bit more depth. That's only if it's suitable for the body. And find a lunge into the pelvis, release the foot to the ground, left hand comes down. Exhale, pike the hips back, wide leg half splits. Inhale, lunge it forwards, chest pulls forwards. Exhale, pike the hips back, pull the toes towards the face. Inhale, lunge forwards. Exhale, pike the hips back, outer left hip hugs in, left heel kicks forwards. Bend the front knee, place the foot down, lift the right knee off the ground, hug the outer hips and step forwards to a frog squat. Hands to heart again, elbows to knees. Lift the pelvic floor up, outer hips hug back. The glutes are really supporting, lifting up through the front of the spine. Bring your head on top of the pelvis. But always that option to, again, sit on a block. Lift the right hand to the ceiling, left hand reaches out in front of the left shin. Option to stay here or move into a half bind with the right hand internally rotating, coming towards the left hip. Full bind, left arm internally rotates, maybe the fingers grab. If you have a strap, you're welcome to take that. Keep the head and the chest lifted. Stay as long as you need. When you're ready, release. Bring the hands back to heart. Then take it to the other side. Right arm reaches out, left arm can lift to the ceiling. Again, you can always just keep the hands to heart center if that's better. Either staying here or again working into the bind. Left arm internally rotates. Option for the full bind, right arm internally rotates. Think of pulling the left knee back, pressing the outer right foot down. Good, lift the chest up, pelvic floor. Good, keep the head lifted. And then very slowly release, finding control as you release, hands come back to heart. Chest lifts up again, pelvic floor is high. Exhale, forward fold as you push the shins back. Bring the feet back towards one another. Inhale, chair pose. Bend the knees, lift the arms. Bring the weight back into the heels. You always have an option to lift the arms to the ceiling. Bring them forwards to your heart or to your hip points. Keep the pubic bone tipping back, outer hips hugging in. Bring the weight into the heels. The navel pulls up, the rib cage lifts up away from the pelvis and the hip points. Inhale, stand up to a mountain pose. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, back to mountain, lift the arms. Exhale, side body stretch over to the left. You can grab opposite elbows, press the hips right. Inhale, lift the arms, release the bind, take the opposite forearm on top, side body stretch over to the right. Press the hips to the left, reach the upper body to the right. Good, slowly come back to the center. Hug the outer hips, arms lift. Exhale, hands back to heart. Inhale, chair pose, sit the hips back and down. Exhale, forward fold, lift the hamstrings to fold. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen the spine. Exhale, step the left foot back. This time keep the back toes tucked, lift the arms to the ceiling. Exhale, hands to heart center. Tip the torso forwards, revolve to the right side, elbow comes outside of the knee, revolve crescent moon. Press the knee out into the elbow, slide the right outer hip crease back. Continue to pull your head away from your glutes. Option to stay here or extend the arms, right arm high, left arm low. Continue to keep the resistance, pressing the knee and elbow into one another. Also the option to lift the back knee up off the ground. Knee keeps pushing into the left elbow. Once the left knee is lifted, press the left heel behind you, let the pelvis be buoyant and the left thigh pushing up high to the ceiling. Tone the navel in, again let the twist come at the chest. Option to fly the arms. Exhale, release the hands to the ground. Slowly pivot the hips, moving into Prasarita Parattanasana. Either parallel or pigeon toe the feet. Soften the knees, lift the inner thighs, the inner knees and the hamstrings up. Bring the hands back beneath the elbows, elbows to a 90-degree bend. We pull the pelvic floor up and in, navel pulls forwards away from the pubic bone. Bring the hips forwards in line with the ankles. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, Skandasana to the left side. Slightly turn the left toes out, bring your butt down towards the left calf. Option to lift the right toes off the ground and flex the toes towards the face. The hands can either stay on the ground, one or both to heart, or maybe take an extension, lifting the right arm to the ceiling. You're also welcome to take a bind, like we did just before in frog squat. Pulling the left knee back. If you have the connection, elbow presses into the knee. Now play a little bit here, let the right glute come to the ground if this is suitable for you. Using just the legs, pick the hips up off the ground. Take this a couple of times, then come back to Skandasana. And then bring the body to the center into Prasarita, wide leg forward fold. Keep the inner arch of the feet lifted. And exhale, low lunge back to the front, pivot to the right. Good, inhale, straighten the front leg for a modified pyramid pose. Back heel is off the ground, the right hamstring pulls back. Always an option to soften the right knee. Use blocks if you need. Pull the breastplate forwards. Continue to hug the outer hips into the midline of the body. Spread the collarbones just like a halfway lift. Pull the shoulder heads back. Good, exhale, low lunge, and step the left foot forwards to a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen the spine. Exhale, low lunge, step the right foot back, lower the knee, keep the toes tucked. Inhale, crescent moon, again the arms lift up, outer hips hug. Exhale, hands to heart, tip the torso forwards, ground the left big toe mound down and revolve to the left, revolve crescent moon. Again, hook the elbow outside of the knee and use that resistance, press them into one another evenly. Pull the left outer hip crease back, tone the navel in. And the same, you can keep the hands at heart, you can extend the arms, you can always place the right fingers on a block as well. We have the same option, lifting the back knee off the ground. Again, the hips are light and lofty. Once the knee is lifted, push the right heel behind you and feel the right thigh bone push up towards the ceiling. Continue to keep the activation, the knee pushing into the elbow, the left outer hamstring pulling back to the glute. Again, you can extend the arms, open through the chest. And then when you're ready, slowly bring the hands back to the ground and pivot through the right side for wide leg forward fold, Prasarita Padottanasana. Again, lift the inner hamstrings up, the inner knees up, keep them nice and taut, and tip forward so the hips are in line with the ankles. Bring the hands back so the hands are beneath the elbows, elbows hug in towards one another. Squeeze the navel in, inhale, halfway lift, pelvic floor rises up, support the self, support the body. Exhale, Skandasana, right toes slightly turn out, bring your butt down towards the right calf, and again the same option, place a block under your bum, maybe turn it up taller. The hands can come on a block in front of you, both or one, or maybe one or both hands to heart. Left toes flex in, you're welcome as well to extend the arms, left high, right low, pushing the right arm into the knee. Or take a half or a full bind, again just like our frog squat before. Pull the left thigh bone all the way into the left side of the pelvis. Keep the chest lifted, the head lifted. And then play again around. If this works for you, let the hips come to the ground, hugging the right hip up to lift your bum up off the ground. Do this a couple of times. You can always pause the recording and play with this, see if it works for you. Always use a block under the bum if you need to lift the ground to you. Use the outer right hip, slowly bring the hips back to the center, turn the feet back in. Inhale, halfway lift, again use the pelvic floor. Exhale, low lunge to the left, pivot all the way through to the left. Again, use the outer hamstrings, inhale, straighten the front leg, modified pyramid. Soften the left knee if necessary to pull the left hamstring back, tip the pubic bone back and lengthen the breastplate forwards, using blocks wherever they feel best for the body. Come high onto the right tiptoes, keep pulling the left hamstring back, pull the chest forwards away from the hips, and exhale, forward fold, step the feet together at the top of the mat. Lift the hamstrings up, and exhale, come now to a tiny little ball squat and curl. Onto the tips of the toes, maybe the forearms, one or both around the shins. And moving into a traditional garland pose. Big toe mounds touch. Open the knees nice and wide, bring the torso in between the inner thighs and walk the arms forwards, rounding the spine, hollowing out. You're welcome to flip the palms up, bring the hands back behind you, pressing the triceps into the inner shins. Try and bring the heels to the ground. Press the back of the palms down, spread the collarbones, maybe even one day bringing the forehead to the ground or bringing the fingers to the outer hips for a little bind. Good, suck the navel in, try and get the heels and the hips heavy. Staying as long as you need. When you're ready, coming to a standing forward fold, hugging the outer hips in. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen the spine, hamstrings lift up to the glutes. And exhale, now keeping the heels on the ground, start to bring your bum down towards the heels and come to a seated position. Arms can come forwards for a little counterbalance. Once seated, you're welcome to prop the hips up by putting a block or blanket or bolster under the hips, moving into a double pigeon pose. Sitting on the top of the sitting bones, the pelvic floor lifts up. Cross the left shin either in front of or on top of the right. Toes flex in, outer heels push out. Inner arches push out as well. The outer hips hug. Good, lifting upright, bring the skull on top of the pelvis. Bringing the arms into an eagle bind. Bringing the right arm underneath the left. You can grab opposite shoulders or maybe opposite thumbs, or palms touch one another. As you inhale, push the elbows up. As you exhale, pull the elbows in and round. Continue this. Inhale, lift up, and then release. See if you can take the other side without using the hands to swap the legs over. Right shin on top of the left. Again, the outer hips hug, toes flex in, or the right shin in front of the left, crossing at the middle of the shins. Again, lift the skull on top of the pelvis. The chin gently tucks back towards the front of the throat. So we now take an eagle bind, this time left arm under the right. Either grab shoulders, stacking the elbows. You can grab opposite thumbs, or the palms touch in front. Again, hugging the outer hips. Gently squeeze the inner thighs towards one another. Navel pulls up and in, pelvic floor is lifted. And same as the other side. Squeezing the elbows in towards one another. Lift the elbows all the way up towards the ceiling. Lift the breastplate. Exhale, pull the elbows in, round the spine, navel tones back. Inhale again, elbows lift. And then release the arms. Release the legs, taking your time. Take the blocks with you, so they're in easy arm's reach once you lower down onto your back. Once on your back, happy baby pose. Grabbing the feet, maybe the outer feet, the big toes. You can always grab the ankles or the back of the thighs. The back of the pelvis presses down, the head and shoulders stay on the ground. So take whichever position feels best for you. You're welcome to gently sway side to side, moving the pelvis left to right. Using the biceps to pull the knees down towards the underarms. Keep the head pulling away from the glutes. And continue to breathe. When you're ready, bring the knees back into the center. Bring the forehead all the way up into the knees. Squeeze everything nice and tight. Flex the toes, the hands, the face, the jaw. We release into our resting pose of Shavasana. Have a couple of blocks, you're welcome to place them under the back of the knees, or maybe roll up a blanket or put a bolster under the knees. If you have a hand towel, place it over the eyes. Bring the legs at least the width of the mat, maybe a little wider, and the arms out wide so no two body parts are touching. Let the breath shallow. Let the mind float away. You stay here as long as you like. Simply allowing yourself to be, experiencing this moment, this breath, each sensation that's present, each thought that runs in and out of the mind. When you're ready, begin to move the fingers and the toes, take a deeper breath. The arms and legs move into a big giant stretch. Before bringing the legs in towards the chest, giving them a little hug, maybe gently rocking. Before rolling off to the favorite side, the most comfortable side. And coming up to a seated position, comfortable seated position. You're welcome to set up any props that help find a little more comfort. Maybe prop the hips up on a block or bolster a blanket. And once seated, let the eyes close, let the hands come to heart. And just thank the mind and body for all it's done for you today. Bring the hands to the third eye, connecting to the intuition. We bow in thanks. Namaste. Thank you so much for taking time for yourself, placing it at such high regards, and moving the body and mind, connecting and creating balance and peace. Namaste.